Judge mocks Clint Eastwood in court, only to be stunned by his genius legal skills. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. The Monterey County courtroom was packed, buzzing with anticipation. This wasn't just any legal case. It was Clint Eastwood, a Hollywood legend, standing at the plaintiff's table. The crowd whispered, some nudging their neighbors, others subtly pulling out their phones to capture the moment. Outside, news vans lined the street, their satellite dishes pointed skyward, ready to broadcast every development to the world. Clint Eastwood had spent over 6 decades battling villains on screen, but today, his adversary wasn't a corrupt sheriff or a ruthless outlaw. It was the legal system itself. The lawsuit was a simple property dispute, yet monumental in scale. A real estate developer, Gerald Mattson, had encroached onto Eastwood's land in Carmel by the Sea, building part of a luxury condominium where it didn't belong. Clint had tried to resolve things civilly, letters, calls, formal complaints, but every warning had been ignored. Now, standing in court, he was ready to argue his own case. The atmosphere was electric as Judge Wallace Bridger finally entered the room. A portly man in his 60s, seasoned by decades on the bench, Bridger had seen it all. But this was a first. Adjusting his glasses, he eyed the Hollywood icon turned plaintiff, a smirk creeping onto his face. "Mr. Eastwood," he said, tapping his gavel, "I understand you've chosen to represent yourselves." Clint, standing tall despite his 94 years, simply nodded, his steely blue eyes locked onto the judge's. "That's right." A chuckle rippled through the courtroom. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others grinned, expecting a train wreck. Even Mattson, seated beside his high-powered attorney, let out a small laugh. Judge Bridger leaned forward. "You do realize that legal proceedings aren't the same as Hollywood scripts, don't you? There are rules, procedures. It's not just about delivering a dramatic monologue and riding off into the sunset." The laughter grew louder. Reporters scribbled frantically. One whispered, "This is gold." But Clint? He didn't flinch. He let the laughter play out, waiting until the room settled. Then, with a calm, measured voice, he said, "I know the rules, Your Honor. And I know the law." A hush fell over the courtroom. Judge Bridger raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And where exactly did you study law, Mr. Eastwood?" Laughter erupted again, but Clint remained unfazed. Slowly, he reached into his case file, pulling out a neatly bound stack of documents. He placed them on the table before him, tapping the top page lightly. "I've spent the last 6 months reviewing every property law relevant to this case. I've studied local zoning codes, legal precedents, and gathered irrefutable evidence proving that my land has been unlawfully encroached upon." His voice remained steady, unwavering. "Now, if this court is truly about justice, then let's get to it." The laughter vanished. The courtroom began to realize something. Clint Eastwood wasn't here to entertain them. He was here to win. Judge Bridger cleared his throat, shifting slightly in his chair. The weight of his earlier mockery suddenly felt heavier. "Very well, Mr. Eastwood," he said, his tone more serious now. "Proceed." Clint sat down, his expression unreadable, but the air had shifted. The murmurs faded, and the trial officially began. One thing was undeniable. This was no ordinary case, and Clint Eastwood was no ordinary man.